it means is that giving India an unquestioned capacity to have a major impact on the timing and flows into Pakistan. Now, there's just one point that I want to explain so that you understand why we're talking about this and why we're saying that they can control the water flow. Because we're getting to run of the river dams and they're not storing water, so what's the issue? The issue is that the first time the dam needs to be filled, जो पानी अंदर आएगा वो आगे से बाहर नहीं निकलेगा, right? Assume there are 5 dams and all of them need to be filled. पहले ये वाला भरेगा, फिर ये वाला, or the other way around. It's going to be one by one by one by one. And on average, like a dam, the last I remember takes something like 22 days to fill. So assume there are 5 dams and you serially fill them. That's 110 days. I think my math is bad. 110 days is roughly 3.5 months of no water. That's a problem. The second version is if they open up the gates and they draw down flushing करते हैं, segmentation निकालते हैं, पानी flood. So the drought and flood वाली वो it becomes like a really big issue if they have so many dams. Now do you sort of understand why it's a concern? Yeah. Okay. So the IWD can't be unilaterally terminated. This is Article 12.4. So it can only be terminated by a duly ratified treaty, which means that if you want to terminate it, you need to make a new treaty, mutually ratified. And I think there should be a Khalid Kiani interview of Sufi Saab in the course pack as well. Okay? Okay, brilliant. Just go through that, that's all about. I'm also pointing these things out because I've been informed that you guys have a debate on this on Friday. Yeah. Joy. It sounds like a water fight. Okay, contemporary challenges. So, by the way, while we're focusing a lot on India and Pakistan, this is also a problem. It's a very in-your-face headline, but 12 hydropower projects on the river Kabul, which can store 4.7 MAF, and they're doing it with the help of Indian experts, right? Do we have a treaty with Afghanistan currently for river Kabul? We don't. So that's something we should need to look at. Because if this happens, because Kabul eventually also feeds into the Indus. Yeah. So that's the logic behind this. So in September, Modi had a meeting to review the status. This you can basically find in the newspaper Wala Ho, which is in your course pack. And then India literally said that we want to put pressure on Pakistan, which was Sufi Saab was talking about in terms of reprisal and Pathankot and whatnot. So creation of high-level task force. So what this proves at the end of the day, so IR's response to Briscoe in your course pack, IR basically being an Indian says, no, it's just lower riparian anxiety. Well, it just got proved. And then the meetings were suspended as we talked about. So this is part of the same snippet. Or you which is like, it needs to be ratified by both, new treaty. And so essentially what India will call revocation or withdrawal, Pakistan will refer to as a breach. Yeah. So Pakistan, this is the interesting, this is where we are now. So Pakistan has filed a request for the World Bank to set up a court of arbitration. Basically, Ratle and Kishan Ganga ke upar dispute hai. Kishan Ganga mein phir se ek aage, Ratle is a new project that they're working on. So India, however, requested for the appointment of a neutral expert. The World Bank is not allowed to choose which of the two it wants. What it needs to or can determine is whether it is a difference or a dispute and provide one accordingly, but that's about it. Except the World Bank halts proceedings and says, okay, don't fight, say sorry, shake hands, make up. But uska hua ye then the US intervened. When the US intervened, we were supposed to have secretary level talks for like water and power, Pakistan and India, on April the 11th of this year in Washington. Neutral location, neutral mediator, both parties, let's resolve differences. It's July the 18th and it still hasn't happened. So that's where we are. So India is stalling the talks. This is a very interesting article that I found out. Shamaila Mahmood basically was part of our legal team for the Kishan Ganga arbitration back in 2010, whenever we did it. So basically what she talks about is why the issue is coming up. She says that the Kishan Ganga award overturned the decision of the neutral expert in the Baghehar case. The court restored a tenet which was fundamental to Pakistan. You know, because we discussed कि उसके अंदर था drawdown flushing आप कर लो, debt storage level बढ़ गया, but उधर minimum flow आ गया, and drawdown flushing was blocked, right? So kind of overturned the neutral experts' score. Now, matters of strategic national importance should not be viewed casually. And once Modi actually, came up and did that is when Pakistan kind of woke up and said, oh, it is a matter of, issue of national security if they completely block our waters. So, by the way, in most RSL presentations, you will find this slide, the way forward. It's just this thing we've grown used to. This is the slide I stolen from Sufi Sahib. And don't tell him I told you guys this, but these are his drawings. So he's also really good at art. So the three basket approach sort of जो preliminary goal था ना was this slide. So basically understand the difference in approaches. First you have the engineer's view कि जी it doesn't violate the IWT because वो 2.85 से कम है, spillway ऐसा है, pondage level ये है, dead storage level ये है, so on and so forth. Therefore the technical specifications it's sound, not an issue. Now, a national security analyst will say that it enhances India's capacity to use water as a weapon. Which, as we said, that the wars of this century will not be fought over oil, they will be fought over water. Now, the legal view is to raise the issue of using water as a weapon outside of the IWT, which is something that Sufi Sal has been talking about since 2010, and no one really picked up on it. Like the first time he told me about it, when I was working as an RA with him, I was just like, what are you talking about? But the more you look into it, the more it makes sense. So, now, but there's another thing as well. That we're lower riparian, are we fulfilling our responsibility? We're really not. So, when you look into it, you'll find, water slowing down the Kotli barrage. In December, we're wasting a lot of water. There are a lot of effluents in Ravi, for example. WWF conducted a study. So, and we haven't made our own dams. So jitna pani aa raha hai, usko tum acha store karo na. Are we doing that? We're not doing that. And then everyone's like, oh, load shedding, all of that keeps going. Also, I'm really running through this, so if you need me to stop, just stop me. You all really want to go home, don't you?
Yeah.
If it helps, my home is 5 hours away. And I also have to go home. Anyway, so again, Sufi Sahib in 2014. So the upper riparian is like a trustee for the lower riparian, does not absolve the lower riparian. Equitable, reasonable utilization, right? Now this is the judgment that Sufi Sahib was talking about. Umar Atta bin Dayal Sahib ki. So the Council of Common Interest decided in 91 and 98 that it gave the express approval for the construction of a dam, and then it further gave directions for supplementary projects supporting the dam. The technical study in 2004 conducted, it proved feasibility. So like internally, step one hamara pura ho gaya. And the constitution further gives the Council of Common Interest power to formulate and regulate policies, including for water power. So the CCI is within its mandate. And therefore under 151 it is obligatory effect. Except Kalabag abhi tak nahi bana, despite Umar Atta bin Dayal Sahib's judgment that because for flood prevention, for generation of electricity, it's something that's very useful and something that we need. Despite that, and he's gone so far to say that it violates the fundamental rights guaranteed under 9 and 25. Yeah. So, bilateral agenda item outside the vote, and this is what Sufi Sahib meant, the third basket hai, reprisal value sense ke andar, that you can take it up with the UN section under Article 99 of the UN Charter, and you can take it to the United Nations Security Council, right? And I think this is something Pakistan really needs to look into.
And quickly.
Yeah, like make the first move for once. And this is something that Sufi Sahib was really wants to do. To have an internship program at the Indus Water Commissioner's office. So interestingly, जो लाहौर में हमारा office है ना, down the same road is the Commissioner's office. If it helps, I don't know, those irrelevant information. And also to bring the relevant ministries on the same page and to strengthen their legal infrastructures. And we need to do all of this so that this is not the situation that we face in 2025.
This is Sufi Sahib?
This is Google. His is better. And that's it.
Where does
You guys have a debate on this, so like just stay for 2 minutes for the questions.
Actually, I'm not for that. But it's complicated and completely. Talking about the contemporary challenges, where does IWG stand in the wake of climate change? Because Pakistan is climate change vulnerable area. If I'm not wrong, India also has some regions that are prone to vulnerability of climate change. So, where does IWG stand?
IWD contains no provision related to climate change.
Are there any steps to be taken or should be taken?
I feel there should be taken because flash floods, for example, from glacier melting is one of the things that can happen. Soil erosion is another thing that can happen.
Has been happening.
Yes.
Why has been happening? Or say, like for floods, it's very easy to say, "Ki India wo pehle," but then what are you doing about floods and droughts that are happening because of your actions as well? So it's definitely something to look into. You might want to link that up with Pakistan recently signing up with the Paris Agreement. Even though like mostly talks about how you need to keep the temperature rise to a 2-degree barrier, whatever threshold in like 30 years or something. But that's still like a seminal thing, which is why the US is pulling out because uske andar, so when you look into the Paris Agreement, it divides countries into developed and developing countries. And the developed countries you pay onus dala gaya hai that you need to fund them for development projects. So personally speaking, when I saw that, I thought, if Pakistan pays the development country card under the climate change framework, get money, build your infrastructure.
ये काम हम ऐसे ही करते रहते हैं लेकिन हम इसके लिए भी करते हैं
We've never done that, right?
You just get the money and you stop it.
हाँ
That these days is a very touchy subject. Any other questions?
I don't think it should be
I have the
touchy.
answers.
Yes.
Why is the topic touchy? It should be very open discussion. Touchy पे तो पाकिस्तान नहीं बैठा रहेगा
Are you not following the GIP?
बैठे ना
Is that not all about money?
It is about money and it should not be touchy at all. People
That's
should
a
be open.
wrong answer.
No, people should not be touchy about it at all.
No, it's not just about money, it's about principles and ethics and morality and 162 and 161 the Constitution and Satik and Amin and
Point. Happy you get the point.
calibrate. Yes. Best thing that happened in Pakistan's history. But yeah, any other?
How can we help Indus water treaty regarding water crisis?
How can you? Acha. Water crisis in Pakistan has a shortage of water. Now, a shortage of water, the most one, you don't have adequate storage facilities. So that's a problem. So just Justice Umar Bandiyal judgment there, he's talked about building a dam or whatever, because he says scarcity and depletion of irrigation water. He's talked about it. So that's one of the ways. The second way, obviously, is then the bilateral approach with India and making sure that they, whatever. Climate change, by the way, one thing I want to link climate change to the vote is that minimal flows in rivers, according to the 97 UN convention that we initially talked about, जो एक flow chart can dissect, that's there and you can show it off, basically says that there should be a minimal environmental flow in rivers to preserve ecology of those rivers. Now, जो 9 cubic Kishan Ganga में set हुआ है, that's still for the western rivers. There's still no minimum flow for the eastern rivers, which is a huge problem. Because मतलब पीछे कोई पानी ना भेजें, तो हम क्या करेंगे? So then you look at customary law, which is something that Pakistan, मतलब पहले हम western तो संभाल लें, then we look at that. But it's something that you guys can write on, and I'd love it if someone did. And yeah.
Can it be said that Indus water treaty has become an obsolete instrument and
That's exactly the debate topic. I'm going to give you a very, okay, depends, what side are you on?
sorry?
What side are you on in the debate?
It's not my turn. It's not my turn.
We've been divided in 3 groups, and 3 groups are going to be.
Okay.
Actually, 6.
Yeah, okay. Okay, let me try and answer that. No, I don't think it's obsolete. In terms of the safeguards that it does provide, in terms of the benefits to Pakistan that it does provide, कि जो 3 rivers आपको मिल रही हैं, you are not strategically in a position where if you were to go to renegotiate the treaty, I highly doubt you would even get
Like,
this.
as you said, that they usually inform us 6 6 months prior to when they are about to commence the project.
Which is what's in the treaty. But that's exactly the point. You keep the treaty as it is. You keep it for what it's good for, but you develop frameworks outside of the treaty in parallel. So जो treaty के नीचे चीजें आ रही हैं वो treaty के नीचे
There
से
should be a parallel arbitration or something.
bilateral talks चला लो, आप एक नई treaty, supplementary treaty बना लो. Because 12.4 talks about the termination, sorry. 12.3 says that if you want to modify the treaty, you can make a new treaty and duly ratify it, both countries can duly ratify.
So they don't touch IWT? Do something like
That's what I personally think.
So why to make a new treaty instead of modifying it? Why don't we?
To modify it, you need to make a new treaty. Like the modifications are entered through a new treaty bilateral.
Amending the option protocol type.
This is the amendment now.
Okay. This is
So-
the amendment in the treaty to make
Yes.
a new treaty. Okay.
12.3, the provision in the treaty, says that to amend the treaty or to modify it, you need to make a separate agreement duly ratified by both parties.
I think the water crisis is
more concerned about the government not taking action in the plans, like the note said.
I can't comment on what is more vogue, but something that you should also look into is the 1991 Waters Accord, which is basically inter-provincial water sharing accord. So this is basically between Pakistan and India, which Pakistan में आ जाता है, फिर आप क्या करते हैं? That's also very problematic.
Iskara power is Pakistan.
Kind of, sort of, because वो एक provincial पे वो dispute आ जाते हैं, and I think those guys really want to do it. If you have any questions, you can stay back.
Yeah. How can Pakistan compel India into bilateral talks? Like, can World Bank play the role of mediator in bilateral talks?
That's
or-
currently what's happening. The World Bank and the US are both playing mediator, except India's delaying it and playing, delaying tactics. We can't make it or whatnot, and so it's being delayed.
How can we say US is a neutral party here where their manifestation of favorite is only US to India?
Interesting. Because then we will also say that they help us with our development, and USA is very active in our country. And basically, see, this isn't law, so
It's politics.
this is politics. So like the first rule of RSR is don't delve into politics. But the second rule is, we still remember Trump as president, right? Acha, anything else?
I think we need to depend less on hydropower for electricity generation and then create more sources of
That's one of the good things that's going to happen with CPEC, hopefully. They're going to be seeing, so there's this solar power park, which recently went out, forgetting where it
It's
is.
in Pakistan desert, right?
Qaid-e-Azam solar power. Okay, no, not coal.
It's in Pakistan desert.
Chalo, it's in Pakistan somewhere, but we're doing that. It's a step in the right direction. You have,
What about agricultural use? We can't do anything about it. We need
unless you somehow take seawater, filter it, reverse engineer it, put, go against gravity, well, it's going to cost you more than, well, Pakistan. So that's it.